number are you? 4?
No idea. 4.
Introduce
Nice.
our first player.
I'd love to, Grant. Spawning in the bottom right-hand side of Submarine LE, a strong, independent Zerg who don't need no team. It's our German player going for that 12 pool, Lamborghini.
And his opponent in the top left, representing Team Blazer. He is the Polish Protoss player in the red. It's Krystianer.
All right, Grant. Now, look, Lambo and Krystianer are both known as very smart players, right? Krystianer, maybe not like as mechanically solid as some other players in the groups, which again is freaking impossible when you're talking about guys like Clem and Hero Marine and, but I do wonder if this is the most insane wrinkle brain double bluff we have ever seen. Our Protoss player chooses Submarine, and of course, Lambo's like, well, it's Submarine, I'm gonna 12 pool. And Krystianer says, yeah, I know you're gonna 12 pool, and I'm gonna prep a build that's gonna defend against 12 pool really well. Second gateway already up. He's gonna drop that cyber core as soon as he can. I really do think this is a double bluff, like crazy build or crazy choice from Krystianer to trick Lambo into thinking I'll build a 12 pool and it'll be great fun. And now the wall off already complete, Zealot coming out, and I don't think these 6 links are getting anything done, Grant. I gotta say, I think Krystianer did fool Lambo here, maybe just a little bit. Lambo taking the bait and actually going for that early aggressive build.
Yeah, this is the best thing about Submarine in terms of being aggressive is it's very, very small, but it isn't that hard to wall off as a Protoss. It's a very easy wall. You can't really get it wrong. In that it is 3 buildings in a straight line with 1 Zealot in it. You don't need. You
have clearly never watched my ladder games as Protoss, Grant.
The Zealot in the wall is of course going to make sure nothing gets in here. There is already an Adept on the way that will be chronoed. This cyber core will most likely go down, and that is frustrating here for Krystianer.
Wow, yeah.
He's going to have to re-wall off and things like that. And if he messes this up, there is still a risk. The re-wall is pretty nice here. So far, I'd say this isn't bad for Lambo. He is droning behind us, maybe going all the way up to, I think he's got 10 lings. It's a little bit frustrating for him. He would have rather stopped at like 6 or 8.
Sure.
But for now, the game is in terms of resources lost, of course, in Lambo's favor, but he lost resources in a more metaphysical way.
This is actually pretty annoying, I think, for Krystianer. Losing that cyber core, never good. It does a couple of things. Obviously, of course, it's going to slow down your warp gate research, one of the most key upgrades rather in the game. But secondly, and I think more importantly, we see him just now starting on his next Stalker and his next Adept. So he does not have that series of 2 Adepts or 2 Stalkers, and of course no Sentry out either for Krystianer. It's going to slow him down immensely, and what that means for Lambo is no aggression in the early game, none at all. This Adept's going to come across, but it's 1, not 2. He may be, wow, he's going to get lucky and catch this drone. No, he's not. 1 Adept, not 2. Ling's already out. Queens are here. Cutting down that Cybernetics core has really slowed Krystianer down. He's going for a Stargate behind this, which I do like. I expect to see a Void Ray first out of him, probably to pick off this Overlord or maybe Phoenix. But definitely not Oracle first. Is he? Wow. Okay, son of a gun. Grant, please explain this to me. If you know your Stargate has been spotted and you know your opponent has a distinct advantage over you economically, why on earth would you go Oracle first?
Yeah, I think he knows that because it was, of course, a 12 pool. Lambo's probably cutting a couple of corners to try and get his economy caught up a little bit. Krystianer has had the worker leave for the majority of the last couple of minutes. And maybe the spores will be a bit later. Oracle, of course, never really loses value as long as it's alive, because Revelation is so important. It gives you map control. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Phoenix or a Void Ray follow-up, although for now he's not doing so. Can always just let the Overlord live. Bugger it, why not?
Wow.
I think we're probably going to see a Glaive attack following this up, seeing what's gone down behind this. Now we do see the Robo, we see the Twilight Council. This Oracle will come in, get a little bit of information. It can count the drones quickly, go and see the positioning of the third as to how far built it is, see that there's no gases, as Creighton is pointing out here. And it's not bad by any means. Like, there's never a bad time to have an Oracle. Okay, so Oracle drop. Wow, okay.
Yeah, interesting choice. Again, Glaives is a pretty common follow-up when you go for a Stargate, and it doesn't get much damage done. Archon drop slightly less common, I'd say. I think Glaives is usually a bit more common, but still not a bad choice here. The Oracle does fly in, grab a couple drones, not too bad. Lambo a little bit belatedly dropping down that Spore at the third base, but so far, I'd say it's fair to say that Krystianer's early game aggression hasn't really panned out. And as everybody knows, when you're playing against a Zerg player, it is your responsibility to get some early damage done. You can't let these players sit, especially a player like Lambo. You cannot let them sit back and get up to, normally I'd say 60, 70, 80 drones, but with Lambo, 100, 120, 170 drones, you know how this guy is. Not able to get up that huge drone number. You've got to put some sort of dent in their economy early on, or you're just going to get overrun by this roach push. And we do see Lairtech finishing up here with 4 gases taken. It's possible that Lambo, 6 gases taken here. It's possible that Lambo's going to go for some quick tier 2 tech. Grant, you think Inspire, maybe right up to Infestation Pit and rush for Hive for like a late, no, he's going missile attacks rather. So
yeah,
what do you think his follow-up's going to be?
Yeah, quite possibly a Hydrogen will come out. He may stick on Roach Ravager for a while. We did see Zags go for a phase where they love Roach Ravager as just that for their army. We have the Baneling Nest going down as well to stop any real Protoss shenanigans. This Archon drop's annoying, but one thing I will say is Lambo's done a great job of defending his creep tumors. His creep, seeing as he 12 pulled, is already in a good spot. It is going to be the Spire here from Lambo as well, which I like, knowing that he is playing against a lot of Immortals coming out. There's probably some sentries being produced, free warped in as we speak, and mainly a ground-based army. The Spire transition can be pretty scary here. Lambo's already at 300 gas, which is a great number. And things are looking pretty good for him.
This is something we've seen a few times here in DreamHack Winter from our Zerg players, is starting with this Roach and going into Roach speed, which normally is a little bit greedy. You're like, wow, if you're committing to Roach speed, that's, it's not like a ton of gas or anything, but it's enough where you want to keep more Roaches on the field. But what we see is a lot of players going to Roach Ravager for an initial push, and then trying to get as much damage done as they can. Behind that, going for Ling Bane Muta, which is a pretty common transition that we've seen a whole lot over the Zerg players at DreamHack EU so far. I can't speak to the other regions. Actually, I can. We saw this in Latin America a couple times as well. So pretty good rotations here from Lambo, but I think Krystianer probably knows what's up. He's seen what's going down in the base of Lambo. He's seen all these gases taken, and he knows it's not just going to be Ling Bane with 6 gases this early on the map.
Nope. Yep, there are already Phoenixes being produced here by our Protoss player, which is nice. No mutas in production just yet in terms of lava. We can see Lambo has a little, but not a lot. He is concentrating on his ground army, mainly adding in a lot of overlords so he can really explodinate his supply here. The Spire, again, is something you do want to have eventually. These drones just waiting patiently. Like, like on Black Friday when people show up at 6 a.m. That's what these, that's what those drones are doing.
Ready to give their money.
Tickets. Yeah.
Ready to give their money to their corporate overlords. I think that's exactly what it is. A great analogy, Grant. A big push getting set up here for Krystianer. Is Lambo going to be ready to respond to this? He's got 75 drones on the field. His Baneling speed is about to finish up in time, but yeah, as you said, no Banelings right now. I think this is going to catch Lambo a little bit by surprise. He's not seen this coming until just now. Are you worried for Lambo at all, Grant?
There's a good amount of force field energy. Yeah, this has potential. Lambo was really caught out of position here. You can see he's at the north side of the map right now. There's no way this base survives. The drones did manage to evacuate, and that is nice. This is a big, important base here for Krystianer to snipe. Wow. And if you can get a big Zealot run by as well, you can see only now is Lambo making Banelings. That's very, very late here. I don't know if the Zealots are going to going for the hatchery is the best idea here. I think they probably should have ran into the mineral line. You can see this isn't going to get the kill. They're now going to try and switch. Okay, going to go for the recall, save as many as he can. It's still okay because a lot of them do survive here, but could have got a little bit more there. But still, when all is said and done, when the chips are on the table, a great little push there by Krystianer.
A nice little smash and grab run there. Yeah, the 4th base going down, forcing Lambo to build another one. And as we said, he's going into Ling Bane Muta, and one of the most important resources in Ling Bane Muta is not necessarily minerals or gas, it's larva, Grant. And losing that hatchery, losing a couple queens as well. He got lots of queen in the main base, those Zealot run bys. It's going to be a little bit difficult, but this is always the threat. The counter pressure right now from Lambo, who realizes that he's got to do some damage on the other side of the map, because if he doesn't do some damage now, he's going to get overrun in 2 minutes, in 3 minutes, when Krystianer does have even more across the map. Now, he picked off the Warp Prism rather, still in the main base of Lambo, so there's nothing here to save these Immortals and position them appropriately, which means that Krystianer is now going to be forced to sack one of his bases as well, and this is good counter pressure from Lambo. Oh my god, the other Warp doing a ton of damage.
I questioned going for the main earlier, but it's going to work out now. The main base here of Lambo is sniped. Krystianer's lost a lot. He's also killed a lot. It's a very strange game. My concern right now is that Lambo's army supply is very, very strong. And the meat and potatoes of Krystianer's army is gone. He's losing all of the bulk. He's lost all of the Archons to tank for these Immortals. And if the units can get on top of these Immortals, there's no batteries. Where are your batteries? Build batteries! He would have been so fine if he had super factors right now. This would have been like the easiest hold in the world, but now everything coming back. It looks like Krystianer will hold, but at what cost, Creighton? Oh, I mean, he's killed so many workers, and he's still killing workers in the natural here of Lambo, actually. This is starting to look a little bit better for Krystianer than I thought.
Man, this is such a good back and forth game. Really gross on both sides. As you said, both players committed so heavily to aggression that their defense is just so low. And yeah, Krystianer knows that he's going to get overrun here. The drone damage is good, but the economy for Lambo still in good shape. I'll be honest, Grant, I think Krystianer probably could have played that game out a little bit longer. And I don't want to, speculate too much on the players' mindsets or anything, because of course we're not there. I'm sorry. Krystianer won that game. Yeah. Yes. I think Lambo could have stayed in for a little bit longer, but and I don't want to get into players' mindsets too much, but there was no GG called at the end of the game. Lambo is an emotional player. I know Krystianer's an emotional player as well. I think both these players had a chance, but Lambo's economy getting destructinated back home, and Krystianer picking off most of his big units there. So a really ugly end of that game.
Yeah, very strange. It was good, though. Certainly a good game there. Let's not forget here for Lambo that it did start with a 12 pool that really did very, very little. It wasn't the most all-in 12 pool, but he still made 10 links very early that only killed a cyber core. That's, not drones. That could have been drones. And Krystianer, I think, played very smartly. We saw the Spire come in for Lambo. How many Spire units did you see in that game, Creighton Olsen? I'll give you a clue.
Let me count on both hands and my toes. Right. Wait for it. Wait for it. None.
Precisely.
None at all. Which, honestly, though, from Lambo, I think had to happen. Krystianer caught him with that push across the map, right? When Lambo was up at the 12 o'clock trying to pressure Krystianer's third base, and Krystianer caught him by surprise with all those Archons and Immortals. And that's really where things started to go a little bit south for Lambo, where he did take more damage that fourth base. And as we said earlier, going Ling Bane, normally I'd say Ling Bane Muta, but sticking on just Ling Bane Roach Ravager for a while, you gotta have Larva, and you gotta have so many of them. And with one base down and two queens down, I think over time, Lambo's supply deficit just kind of caught up to him there, running at the end of your Larva. Anybody who's played Zerg player knows how frustrating it is to hit that Roach key and to hear the annoying, no Larva, buddy. You gotta try harder than that. Macro up, champ. Yeah, which I'm pretty sure that's the tasteless line where he's just like, macro up, champ. Scrub.
Don't. We all want tasteless to yell at us.
Oh my god! If they could make a mean tasteless announcer voice,
so
do you know how angry Artosis I would buy that? Oh my god, I would buy that so fast. He's just like, you idiot, build more minerals. Mine more minerals. I would totally buy that, 100%.
This, you win, and he's like, this guy is trash. That's what we want. I want angry Artosis voice back. Blizzard, you are missing out. I will give you all of my monies. Give me angry Artosis. Give it to me!
God, can you imagine the clips that would come out of Artosis playing StarCraft 2 with the angry Artosis voice pack, arguing with himself?
Oh, don't.
Shit, I'm gonna lose my mind.
There's so much money missing here. They could fund. I would single-handedly buy enough of that voice pack to fund the next 3 years of WCS.
I will fly to Korea and I know where Artosis lives
on my phone.
Him. Let's make this happen, guys.
Yeah, we're on it.
God.
Map 2 loading in. I have killed my co-commentator, but that's okay. We don't need him anyway. Pillars of Gold will be our second map here, Creighton Olsen. We have to do our serious golf talking.
It will. Yeah. Serious caster time now as we get to the Pillars of Gold. Big win for Krystianer there in game 1, Grant. If he wins this one, like we said earlier, if he wins this one, Group C gonna get a little bit uglier as more and more players tied up. But it looks like we're finally into game here. Let's intro our players as I wipe the last remaining tears out of my eyes at the imagination of an Artosis voice pack versus Artosis stream. Please, Lord. Let this happen. Let's intro our players. Spawning in the top right-hand side in the blue from Blazer Esports and Poland. Grabbing a quick game 1, or an ugly rather, game 1 win. It's the unexpected leader so far in the series, Krystianer.
And as I introduce our second player, Creighton Olsen is going to jump out and rejoin the call to stop the roboting. In the bottom left-hand side, he has no team, but he would love one. Please give him money, people. He is the red Zerg player from Germany. It's Lambo. Now we wait for Creighton to come back here.
Was I close on my zoom in? I tried to guess when you were going to say
I worked around it, but we did it.
Attaboy. Thank you. Am I sounding better?
Yeah, much.
All right. Sounds like that Discord error that does happen sometimes. It just loses the integrity of the bit rates, and we start losing voices in the tubes. Sometimes that's the case. Lambo forced take this third base, the awkward third position, but it looks like it's not going to happen with that natural. Zerg players don't really care anymore about not getting that natural. It used to be such a big deal, and I remember like the first couple days going nuts when the players were like, "Oh my gosh, he's to take his third base. This is such a big deal." And now Zerg players are just so good at defending, Grant. It's just unfair. Yeah. Krystianer on the other side, of course, we've got gateways and cyber cores, which are gateway and cyber core, different than last game, of course, where he went for double gateway to protect himself against the short rush distance on submarine. Things look a little more even this time around.
Yeah, no 12 ball means no second gateway here, which is completely fine for both of these players. Lambo will want to play a more standard game this time. Submarine is a map that never gets through the map pool because it is very, very difficult to play on. I think Zergs do struggle with a very short rush distance here. And you see things like Krystianer was able to get his army across the map so quickly and punish the opponent. This game, though, everything is very normal. Adept coming out first here for Krystianer. That will move across. Stargate is going to be the tech choice. I was curious whether we would see him go for Glaive Adept push here on Pillars of Gold. But it's not going to be the case. Stargate, we'll probably see that Oracle coming out nice and early.
Now that you've said Oracle, you know it's not going to be an Oracle,
a Void Ray, right? He's going to go instant Fleet Bacon carrier.
God, that'd be amazing. If he does put an Oracle out, it just means that objectively, you're a better caster than I am. Like, we've done a scientific experiment now. He's gone Stargate, and you've correctly predicted what he builds, and I've gotten it wrong. I even gave myself a 2 out of 3 chance. I was like, you'll either go Void Ray or Phoenix here, and he was like, haha, just kidding. Anyway, either one would be fine. You make a good point, though, about this Glaive to Death potential opener. Oh, boy, Grant.
My friend.
You make a good point about the Glaive to Depth push, though. I feel like that's one of the most common Protoss build orders on this map, particularly, just because it's so strong. The distance between the third, the main, and the natural is very long, just by rush distance from one to the next. And also, there are a lot of nooks and crannies for these Adepts to hide in. I mean, up the main base, you get yourself in behind these minerals. The natural doesn't have a ton of space behind these minerals. The third base, the same way. Easy to slip some Adepts in and try and get some damage done. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on. Grant. 4 drones going down already. He's trying to micro the Lings on the other side of the map, I think, which is why he wasn't pulling his drones in time. And he didn't actually get as many probes as he had hoped. In fact, he got 0 probes. So good scouts here from Lambo, and he should know this Oracle's coming. A lot of Lings to counter. Ooh, this is a lot of Lings to counter, and there's not much on the ground right now for Krystianer, Grant. He lost both those.
How's the wall looking? That's what I'm curious of, because it has been pulled apart a little bit. Okay, this shouldn't be a problem because there is a Stalker in the wall with a battery, which means it can never, ever die. So Krystianer definitely getting the better there. The 2 Adepts were able to straight up walk into the main, not even shade up. They just perambulated up the ramp. Boom.
Yeah.
And we're able to get a few workers there. They die for it, but this is fine. This is what you want here is Krystianer. Behind this, it does look like we will see another Archon drop, probably, coming out of the Polish Protoss player. And Krystianer with another good start to a game is a little bit disconcerting if you are a Lambo fan. For now, though, I mean, the game by no means decided or settled just yet.
I mean, this is not Home Story Cup. We're not allowed to say GG 4 minutes into a game like those pros are, who are so dang good at the game. I loved that Home Story Cup when it was all the pros were just like, the game's just over. There's no point in commentating anymore. Yeah. Which to me, as someone who likes to just talk about what's happening in the game, was so foreign. I was like, but they're doing cool stuff, and the pros were like, it doesn't matter how cool it is. He's done, because they all know the game inside and out. Yep. But I feel like, Grant, since you and I are not grandmasters on all 3 ladders with different accounts and different races, we probably can't call this game quite yet. Still fair to say either player could pull it out. Third base for Krystianer, no duress from Lambo's Lings. Usually those Lings stick around for a little while, and if they're like a couple of Adepts defending, they might try and pick them off or even get some health down or some shields down on the building nexus. But nothing there from Lambo as Krystianer able to save the third base, going up to Forge, and as you said earlier, Grant, Archon already on the way.
Yeah, the third is a little bit later here than standard for Krystianer. He didn't drop like a 4-minute third. There are usually the ones that are a little bit more at risk here. We did have a couple of adepts, I believe, ran into the natural and forced a pull during all of that, but nothing substantial. Once again, I don't think any more workers. One more went down. Really, nothing major here. Lambo really able to power up his macro now. His lair is done. He's getting his Evo chamber on the way here. I think it's just a 1 Evo. Yes, it is.
And 7 overlords.
Yeah, there we go. Baneling Nest coming down, roach speed. We're going to see a lot of roaches coming out of Lambo pretty soon as he powers up now towards the 200 supply mark.
Yeah, that Evo chamber finishing up. I expect to see +1 missile attacks out of Lambo again. It looks like he's going for a similar build. I believe last game he got +1 missile attacks started before roach speed, though. And the longer it takes for him to get this missile attacks out, the less likely it is that it will actually be missile attacks. It looks like he's going for a Ling Bane Muta style. Again, as the Spire's down. And okay, there it is. Yeah, missile attacks does come down. So it looks like, again, Lambo wants to start out with a Roach Ravager push, that ranged attack upgrade, helping out the Roach Ravager, and then transitioning from there, getting as much damage as he can into the Ling Bane Muta style. Again, still an excellent choice on a map like Pillars of Gold. I mean, Grant, I'm just going to zoom all the way out for a minute. Look at the outside of this map here. Yeah. The center of the map has so much space, so many wide open areas here. If you can catch a Protoss army moving across the map, if you can catch a retreating bunch of Stalkers, if you can catch anything the Protoss is not 100% ready for with Lings and Banes, you can get some very real damage done. Very scary to be on Ling Bane Muta on a map like Pillars of Gold. And Krystianer is going for Archon, Immortal, and a couple of gateway units again. The problem is going to be, again, for Krystianer, the last game, one thing that was really scary at the last push, one of the reasons that Lambo did so well for so long is that the gateway army was very, very scant for Krystianer. He had a lot of Immortals, he had a lot of Archons, but not a lot of charge lots or Blink Stalkers behind that to sort of soak up the damage and zone out those Roach Ravagers. Krystianer this time, similar build, right? He's got 1 Stalker, 6 Zealots, and a couple of Sentries on the map. Not going to be quite enough to really bulk up and save these Archons and Immortals if the Roach Ravager is able to get on top of them.
Yeah, no Zealot legs done yet. That will be finishing in 15 seconds, though, which will allow this army to have a bit more beef, a bit more front line. This time, it's starting to look a bit better. There's now 12 Zealots. This Roach run-by, though, is going to force most likely a recall, I would say. This is going to be very efficient here by our Zerg player. Lambo making some great steps. We also have a big fight coming in. These Banelings very close to completing, and they will manage to do so right on top of all the sentries and catch a lot of the Zealots as well on the retreat. But the power units still strong, still alive and stomping forward here for Krystianer. And Lambo's done a lot of damage to the other side of the map, a huge amount, but can he hold? But at what cost? Crazy!
Oh man, Grant, this is going to be such an interesting thing. If you look at that army value tab, even though Lambo is way ahead in army supply, you'll see the army value of Krystianer is so much greater, but Krystianer getting caught a little bit out here. 1 Archon on the ramp, distracting a lot of these Roaches, but the bulk of his army down here on the east side. Those Roaches still working away at his 3rd base, but drones have been pulled out from Lambo to defend against this. I don't think Lambo has enough bulk in his army. The War Prism is still microing these Immortals. Unfortunately, with the amount of Ravagers out right now, the War Prism cannot warp in more gateway units. He's going to take out these Ravagers before he can do another round of warp ins, and unfortunately, he's going to get pushed back here. The 3rd base has been saved, but 25 probes have gone down, as have a massive crap ton of drones. Grant, it's 3 base versus 3 base. Krystianer still on those 2 Immortals. Who won that fight, or was it a draw?
I think Krystianer, it's very close to see. In terms of resources lost, we can see here that it does favor Krystianer, but as I expect to lose a little more. Lambo did lose one of his major mining bases here, but Krystianer lost all of the probes on his. He can produce quite quickly, whereas Lambo, of course, does need to make some units still to make sure he doesn't get rolled over by any follow-up. Krystianer does need to spend his money right now on a lot of units. He is getting some sentries. His +2 not done, getting a few Zealots. Does he have enough on the ground? There's 3 Immortals. Where are the other 2? In the prison. Okay, that should be fine. Why does he not believe in batteries?
You know, I'm not sure why Krystianer doesn't drop a lot of batteries. It's something we see from him actually quite often, especially in the ESL Open Cups when I cast him a lot. He's not a player who loves to get a ton of batteries, and as you said, a single shield battery overcharge here could make a difference between an easy hold and a difficult hold. And then finally, this time, different than last game, I think the Roach counter pressure from Lambo is going to be just enough. And Grant, that's a function of the initial probe damage he did with that little Roach run-by. Yep. Last game, he didn't have any of that economic damage done, and Krystianer was able to defend. This game, the GG goes down because Krystianer lost so much economy back home as the armies squared off on the other side of the map, as is almost always the case at DreamHack, Grant. It's not the player who wins the big fight who wins. It's the player who keeps their economy intact. We're going to a game 3, Grant.
Yes, we are. Once I figure out where Discord is to get your cam back. There he is. Oh, he's such a handsome boy.
Interesting. My cam has just disappeared from my Discord. Really?
I can see you. Don't worry about it.
Okay, as long as you can see me, that's all that matters.
Yep. So, map 3, yeah, that was good there by Lambo. I still think Krystianer, if he had 2 shield batteries and battery overcharge, which he had the energy and the money for, we could have seen a different game there, because that attack by Lambo was quite desperate. He didn't have much going on behind it. It did hit at a big anti-timing before +2 for Krystianer.
Yeah.
But now we move on to Lightshade, map 3, and it's all to play for. This is a very important series here for Krystianer. I would say this could be make or break, this one map for his tournament life. And for Lambo, if he really wants to, keep the ball rolling downhill, he needs to pick up another win now.
You know, Grant, this is something you talk a lot about with these group stages, is that the players go in kind of expecting to have some players they're going to do well against, probably expecting to have some opponents they're going to do poorly against, and then expecting some players they're probably going to have like an even fair fight. I think Lambo probably came into this series expecting a win, and if he actually takes one of the L's here, it's going to be a little bit rough for his tournament life. Still some really good players that he has yet to play against in his group. Let's talk about the group a little bit more after we intro our players.
Yeah, in the bottom right-hand side of Lightshade, he is teamless but looking. He has the Blue Zerg player from Germany. It's Lambo.
And his opponent in the top left-hand side in the red from Blazer Esports and Poland with that 8-year anniversary decal on his Nexus there. It's Krystianer. So, Group C right now for our second and penultimate game of the day. I'm going to read the 8 players, Grant, in order from top of group to bottom of group in rank right now. Group C is Skillus at 3-0.
Wow.
Skillus just beat Goblin. Lambo, I know. Lambo at 2-0. Hero Marine at 2-1. Goblin at 2-1. Marine Lord at 1-1, and then 3 players without a win yet: DNS, Krystianer, and Cass, who are all sitting at 0-2, or Cass, who's sitting at 0-3. This group, as I said, since Goblin has now lost his game, if Krystianer can win this one, it means there are only going to be 3 players that don't have at least 1 win and 1 loss, making Group C a tangled web of uncertainty. If Lambo's able to pull out the win, though, only 3 players fighting for those middle spots, and it's going to more or less put Krystianer's hopes of winning to bed, I think. Yeah. So this could be a fascinating, very interesting group.
Yeah, I'd say this group is certainly, if Lambo wins this, it does become top-heavy, as you say, and it's very difficult. I do think Krystianer has the potential to really upset this group. He was a player coming into this who can, on any day, beat any player. He's like a proper online king, plays every tournament ever. And he's very, very good. But of course, a Premier $84,000 tournament is a different kettle of fish. Now, Stargate on the way once again here from Krystianer, sticking to what he knows best.
You call it Oracle again, Grant?
I'm calling Oracle into Archon drop.
All right, I'm calling Void Ray into Mass Void Ray, into Carriers, into
Could you want to put some money on this?
100,000 unicorn dollars.
What about
the official That's the official currency of Scotland.
I'm pretty sure it's not.
It is. Well, you know the official animal of Scotland is the unicorn, right?
Is it actually?
Did you not know that? Yeah. All the other nations in the world are like, we're gonna have an official animal, and it's gonna be a real animal. America was like the bald eagle. Canada was like the majestic beaver, and Scotland was like, what? We can do any animal? I was going to do a Scottish accent, but I backed out. Yeah, they went for a unicorn. And then, of course, as their favorite, their national flower is the thistle, which is like just a spike.
It's a thorn, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like a giant spike with a purple puffball on the top. Scotland is so weird in choosing their national symbols, and I'm kind of way into it. It's kind of amazing. The good news is, Grant, you're now the recipient of 100 unicorn dollars because it is Oracle again from Krystianer. It's going to be spotted, though. Look at these link scouting patterns from Lambo. Yeah. This is so smart. I'd love to see Zerg players doing this, sending a couple links out of the map, putting them on patrol. And since he's not able to get this Overlord into the main base to get a scout, these lings are going to see the Oracle coming across. So a really nice scout from Lambo, and immediately Spore Crawler's coming down. Should be a little bit late, but he's got Queens in position at this natural. I think he's going to be just fine, Grant.
Yeah, Krystianer, I don't think cares about this Oracle being seen, because it's a very safe opening, having that Stargate, having that Oracle for Roach all in was coming. He could chrono out a Voidy Boy. Oh my god. Okay, now this is different from Krystianer.
I'm taking half credit for my prediction.
You know what? We're splitting the money this time. Phoenix just shot... Yeah, okay. He shot the overlord and then decided to go away. The frustrating thing here for Lambo is he's not going to see what the follow-up is to this. He already knows it's different. Because there hasn't been a single Phoenix produced in any other games that wasn't Haluk. But the rest of the Phoenixes will be hid until they're like probably 6 to 10 in number, I would guess. You can see already Lambo getting his ropes running and things. He needs to keep producing queens, which he's currently not doing. It looks like Krystianer is sort of hinting that maybe I'm going to do some glaive stuff, but that isn't going to be the case here, and Lambo needs to figure out what's going on.
This is so smart from Krystianer. Again, seeing that Phoenix, as you said, might tip off Lambo to think, okay, a Phoenix, that's a little bit new, not an identical build, or it could still be very similar, you know? There's nothing wrong with a Protoss player making one Phoenix and just, you know, scouting and picking off some Overlords. But showing those 4 Adepts, I think, Krystianer, very, very smart. 4 Adepts can often be an indicator that you're moving into glaive Adept play. And of course, Krystianer's follow-up the last 2 games. Yeah, the follow-up last game for Krystianer has been Twilight Council into Robo. So Lambo may be thinking, okay, Krystianer's going to change things up a little bit. Not a lot, though. He's still going to go Twilight Council, Robo. He'll get some Adepts out, but it's not that different than an Archon drop until now. And the Lynx see these 6 Phoenix coming across, and Lambo immediately drops a Nidus Worm because he's a baller like that.
Yeah, he's been he carried on producing queens as well. He's now up to 8.
Smart.
Very healthy number. You can't lift 8 queens and then also have a DPS to kill them. So very, very safe here. This Nidus network is most likely going to be seen. The good thing about Phoenixes is that they're super fast, speedy boys, and they're able to get and see all the information. But so far, they find a bit of damage here, which is nice. But they haven't actually gone into the natural to see the Nidus. And there's a lot of Lings being produced. And one thing that Phoenixes can't do is kill 24 Lings. You cannot lift them quick enough. So we're going to see a whole bunch of Lings get into that worm. Where is the vision coming from? Okay, it's going to go right outside the natural here. The wall, though, being complete is a problem. Probably the 3rd being the easiest target so far, I would guess.
Yeah, and one of the real problems that we have for Krystianer here is, sure, he's got 41 army supply, but almost all of that is in the air right now, Grant. His ground army is 2 sentries, a stalker, and 4 Adepts, those initial 4 Adepts. In fact, his entire ground army fits onto the screen right here. This is all he's got. He's going to see one of the Nidai, but the second Nidus Worm is not going to be here, and already...
Oh my god, the wall's open!
Lings, the wall is open, but there we go. Finally blocked. Finally blocked. Wow, that was a close call. Close call.
He really could have gone there. That's a missed opportunity from Lambo. Even if he just siphoned off 12, 14 Lings and went for it, gonna activate that stasis ward. Very, very nice by Lambo. Patient play. Doesn't want to make any mistakes with the other one here. Trying to, there we go, file that down. The stasis wards are nice. They are buying a bit of time here for Krystianer to get a few more Zealots, a few more Archons, a few more Immortals on the field. That one's pretty good.
Yeah, grabs that second stasis ward. So 1 out of 3 ain't bad for stasis wards. The problem right now, though, for Krystianer is that Lambo has a ton of Ravagers here, and a couple good Ravager biles could be brutal if they get onto these Phoenix. But the Phoenix have to be very, very cautious and split up. So far, this looks like a decent ult from Krystianer, who, Grant, you're going to love this, has actually built shield batteries as third base.
Yeah, there's still a lot of queens here, though, and they're being untouched, and the Ling count is only growing. Lambo stopped at 51 workers. He has to find something here. Bile's not managing to get any big connections yet, but if these Phoenixes go down, the Queens will be completely able to rain fire on this. That's a big Bile, catching a few Stalkers. It did also kill a couple of Lings. And this Protoss army has found itself a nice little nook to hide and cry in. The Mortal's starting to stand a little bit strong. It is now getting down to the point where it's mainly Queens fighting. Probes are going to be pulled off the line here. Is there enough Zerg? I think there might be.
I don't think so, Grant. I think Krystianer should be able to hold this. The shield battery overcharge should still be available. Oh no, it's not quite available yet. About 20 seconds left until there's another shield battery overcharge.
Phoenix is dead.
But all that's left are Queens and a couple of Roach Ravager. There's a Hydra Den going down behind this. Lambo's trying to transition out, but the Immortals stand strong. And Grant, as long as the Protoss player has Immortals, they have hope in their breast. That is a great defense from Krystianer, smacking down what was a very offensive and very, not all in, but a strong timing from Lambo there. Lambo with no upgrades, with no Banelings yet, just dropping down his first Evo chamber, and already Krystianer with 6 Immortals on the map. I'd love to see a Warp Prism for a little bit more mobility with these Immortals, but otherwise Krystianer's going to be able to defend fairly easily here. I mean, look at the army value right now. It looks even for these two players, even though the army supply in favor of Lambo.
Yeah, Lambo's army isn't that strong right now in terms of upgrades as well. Neither player have any, which is very surprising this far in the game, and there's not even any on the way. Forge on the way here for Krystianer. We see +1 start off now as I'm speaking. Most likely for both of those players. Boom! But Krystianer's army is certainly stronger in a head-to-head fight. There's no Hydralist yet on the field, first couple being produced, but already Templar Archives on the way. The most important thing is that Krystianer has been on 3 bases this entire time, barely lost workers. Lambo doesn't have a 4th yet. He wanted to be a base ahead, and he's very much not.
Yeah, he definitely wanted that, and as you said, definitely not. 4th base just finishing up for Lambo here. Drone count almost even with the probe count of Krystianer. Krystianer should be going from 4th base, so it'll take a while for him to get there, though. He's got to clear out all these creep tumors, and I'm a little shocked to see that Krystianer has not yet built a Warp Prism, prioritizing instead an observer rather, and more Immortals. Guys, Immortals are so good, but I feel like the Warp Prism is basically just an upgrade for the Immortals, and 1 Warp Prism makes every Immortal on the map like twice as strong. Not only that, we saw in game 1, I think Krystianer did some really nice Immortal into the Warp Prism into the main base play, right? Warping in those Zealots, picking off tech, forcing the army back. Cancel on the 4th base, by the way, from Lambo. Nicely done by Krystianer. But yeah, a little surprised to see no Warp Prism yet from Krystianer. I think that's the only weakness in his play right now. Just adding on more charge lots, or Zealots rather, with charge almost finished up. How do you feel about Hydras against charge lot Immortal, Grant?
With enough Lings and Roaches and Ravagers as well as Banelings to tank the front lines, Hydras are great against this sort of Stormer Immortal composition because they attack very quickly and do good damage versus the armored units, and they benefit more than Roach Ravager from the upgrades because they attack so quickly. We do have Storm completed though, so Krystianer's army has all of the tools it needs to succeed. I wouldn't mind seeing a Robotics Bay go down as sort of a backup to move into Disruptor play, maybe off of the back of this. That's sort of the next step. The wall here isn't going to go down. Unfortunately, 2 batteries will stand for days. A warping should come in, yeah. Krystianer maybe being a little indecisive though. I think he needs to try and make something happen pretty soon, because if a Hydra count gets too high and Infestors or anything Infestation Pit, Vipers most likely join the fray, it can be a little bit scary for him.
Yeah, this is a really interesting spot for Krystianer, where he sort of does have all the tools that a Protoss player needs to win a fight, right? He's got Storms for AoE damage and also for zoning purposes. He's got the Immortals in the back. He's got enough gateway units in the front to really defend against this. Another forced cancel on the base there. Krystianer stuck on 3 bases in Lambo. Looks like he wants to take this fight. So smart from Lambo. Avoid the head-on fight. Try and take these little guerrilla warfare fights all over the place. And whatever you do, don't allow Krystianer's big, scary army to engage with your main army here. I think this is smart from Lambo. Krystianer, though, defending fairly well, Grant.
Yeah, he split his army very, very nicely there. He kept a lot of the key units down south to make sure that Lambo split force could not punish him. And Krystianer's getting to the point now where he's maxed. He has that Kratom Prison on the field, finally. And is going to start looking for damage there with a bunch of Zealots. Probably could go for a large warp in here if he wanted to, but these Zealots will trade very efficiently against a bunch of Lings, and at this point when he's getting towards his 4th base, Krystianer can throw away a few Zealots. You can see his money is good, Lambo banking also, and he's finally getting Hive and finally getting a Spire. This is going to come down to a big fight, but I do feel like Krystianer has his army is terrifying. There's how many Immortals? There's 11 Immortals, Creighton.
That's a lot of Immortals, Grant. I think the real weakness right now for Krystianer is that he's got this 4th base problem that he has not been able to establish. He has now had a 4th base canceled, not 1, not 2, but 3 different times this game. Lambo has been on top of this, and Lambo's strategy is becoming more and more clear. Avoid a fight for as long as possible, bleed your opponent out, prevent them from getting another mining base, and try to keep Krystianer at home for as long as he can. Luckily, Banelings into the 3rd base here are going to do a lot of economic damage, and Lambo's strategy is really shaping up now. Krystianer chasing small pockets of Roaches and Raptors forward, but Lambo, I think, rather, happy to trade against Krystianer right now. Yeah. Lambo at 2K, 1K in the bank, and Krystianer not quite there as his 4th base has been denied so many times.
Yeah, Lambo is really using Banelings to the best of their potential right now. He's killing a lot of the Zealots and things in that front line. Right now, we're looking at only 3 Archons in the army, but this warping could end up being pretty deadly. There's not that much here to deal with it, and they do find a little nook and cranny to hide in. As Hydras come, it will become a little bit better. Oh my god, some nice storms here. If he can catch all of these Banelings warping in, and he's not going to be able to, Krystianer could be in a great position, but I'm very concerned. There are a lot of storms here. Oh my god, the first one is magic onto the drone line here, and now Lambo is going to be forced to take a fight that he doesn't want to take. He cannot get us around here. He's going to have to come on head on through some real bad weather. This base will go down, and here we go, Creighton.
Wow, huge storms, as you said. Really nice retreat micro there from Krystianer, who's getting some good kiting done. The Baneling count evaporating, Grant. 1 Baneling left on the map, and whoa, another good storm in the front there. Look at how low this army from Lambo is. I know Hydralisks recover their health pretty quickly, but I gotta say, Krystianer's army still looking strong. He had 11 Immortals earlier, Grant. He still has 10 in this fight. He's got so many Immortals that the Immortals are trapped behind other Immortals trying to get their damage out here. And with the drones going down, with the lines of Hydralisks coming down, again, the army supply looks even, but look at the army value tab with that A key, Grant. Just so much higher here for Krystianer as Lambo gets beat back and beat back and beat back. And Grant, this could be a big win for our Polish player Krystianer here if he is able to pull this out.
Krystianer just needs one big warp in. He's having to warp in a couple of units at a time. If he could warp in like 8 Zealots or 8 High Templars and get a bunch of Archons to tank for this army, he'd be able to close this out. His economy is still good. He actually does have his 4th base up, finally. Whereas Lambo is stuck on 3 bases, and 2 of them are old AF. So he's like really barely mining like at all at this point. I think Krystianer's going to feel content to back off here, knowing that he's done a lot of damage. He's really stifled his opponent. And there is Lambo's Hail Mary. Brood Lords are going to be the play here. If he can get to them, it would be great, because we don't have a blink even here for our Protoss player to deal with it. But if Krystianer sniffs this out, if he gets any hint this is happening, he will move across the map and kill him.
Yeah, interesting choices here from Krystianer not to keep that pressure on. Taking out 2 bases from Lambo was really good. Obviously, Lambo actually, interestingly, just barely still ahead in economy, even though his drone count's slightly below. I think Krystianer's going to bump up once this 4th is finally established. But yeah, Broodlord's an interesting choice because, of course, so many Archons on the map already, and Storm. Storm and Archons can evaporate a clump of Broodlords, and honestly, on 3 bases, on only 6 gas, it's going to be difficult to really get up to a high Broodlord count because Lambo has spent a lot of his gas. He still has a lot of gas in the bank. He spent a lot of his bank, but his mineral bank is so low right now. You may as well call it Han Mineral Bank. He just hasn't got much left in the tank here. Warp Prism causing some trouble in the main base, but that's really just a sideshow as Krystianer pushes in with another huge army. The Warp Prism, though, out of position this time, which means the positioning going to be much more difficult for Krystianer's giant army.
This Archon count is really impressive. We're looking at 7 here in the front lines, and that's going to be a problem. You can see some of Lambo's army is still split off here, and he's down in army supply as is. He loses another base. He is down to just 1 very good base now. And is that even up yet? No, it's not. 4 Broodlords on the way, though. The Archon count is good, but there's nothing that can get underneath the Broodlords. Lambo's going to have to micro his little German heart out, but if he can keep them alive and keep the damage from afar, there's definitely a possibility he can clean up this army. Big counterattack coming, but look, Krystianer has so much, except batteries!
Except batteries, but I think it's going to be okay. Krystianer obviously doing that pro gamer thing where you're slightly ahead in a game and you're like, all right, what can I lose to? And a counterattack is something he could have lost to. Those Hydras on the other side of the map are a big Hail Mary from Lambo. Obviously not marrying up his 2 armies together. The Broodlords eating yet another storm. They're barely still alive, but 1 finally goes down. The Archon's ugly underneath here. More Broodlords coming in, 3 more, but look at what's happening from Krystianer. Remember, Grant, how he opened up this game with double Stargate? Guess what's finally coming back to help Krystianer out here at the end of the game?
Yeah, Recall Force to finally deal with this counterattack of Hydras. Just a few units keeping Lambo in the game right now. There's actually a stuck Archon, Void Rays, in production. God damn, I love Void Rays. Things Krystianer looking up. He certainly now has the tech to deal with this. That Stargate is going to be very useful here. Of course, there are 2. He's going to catch a load of drones here. Storms them. So many drones going down. Vital units. A few Broodlords may be far from home, no, as the only anti-air here is the Storm and 1 Archon that does die. Lots of High Templars being morphed in. Neither player has a bank really anymore. You can see that supply does heavily favor Krystianer, and these Void Rays being kept at home. I mean, what is there to defend them? How many Hydras are there? 5. That's not enough. I think Lambo I think he's screwed.
Grant, we've been casting this for 5 days straight now, and I feel like our brains are so in sync. I was just about to say, pop open that units tab, look at the Hydra count, and Hydra's Broodlords are great, obviously, but unfortunately, just like when you have Banelings against Void Rays, they don't do great damage because they can't attack anything in the air. So interesting that Krystianer's trying to engage here. This is actually going